Peace, brothers and sisters. This is Anpu with another episode on Question Everything. Now, this will be number 3. Still breaking down this religion, the Bible, still in Genesis. So, basically, we're gonna break down some of these verses so we can understand them better, and then you could do the mathematics yourself. Um, like I said before, I'm not hating on people's religions and their belief system. If that's what you believe in, then that's what you believe in. Um, I don't knock that. Some people do need religion, you know, but to me, religion is based off of fear. Don't do this or you're going to go to hell. Oh, don't do that. God's always watching. You're going to go to hell. I mean, common sense should tell you, you should know what are good things and what are bad things, what are good things to do and what are bad things to do. I don't think you need a religion to tell you these things, you know. But basically, we gonna go into this. The last video we broke down about the lights and the situation. I told y'all to question that. Go back and on the last video you could go see. Um, you see how the Bible with the Garden of Eden takes place. You could tell that it takes place in Africa, because they used the major rivers, which is when you go to Genesis chapter 2 verse 11, you know no verse 10, and the river went out of Eden to the water of the garden, and from there is parted and became into 4 heads. Now verse 11, name of the first is Pishon. That's one of the rivers. Okay, and the whole land, you're basically saying that where there is gold. I mean, where is the most abundance of gold? Africa. So basically, we can see that this garden is basically taking place in Africa. And Pishon, like when you research um, Egyptology and ancient Kemet, they speak of On, the god of On. So, you can see where they're getting this stuff from. Whoever wrote this book, King James Version, I guess this is his version of the story. Um, and the gold of that land is good. That's verse 12. The gold in that land is good. Now, here we are in Genesis. Now, the world's, the planet, everything is being created within these 7 days. And in chapter 2, verse 12, is saying that the gold is good. Now, we have to question this because if you know the science of gold and minerals and diamonds and rubies, you have to understand how these minerals are created. You know what I'm saying? Basically, the elements comes from the sun. When the sun is being supernova and it starts to break down to collapse, it starts creating all these elements and then supernovas and spread it out through the galaxy, through the universe. Um, if you know the science of gold, it takes millions of years for gold to be produced, even diamonds, through pressure, temperature, and certain minerals. So it just doesn't make sense. But then when you try to kick this to somebody, they're like, "Oh, but this is God. God know how to do everything. He could do everything. Don't question it." But according according to the facts, it takes millions of years for gold to be formed underground. Okay, so question that. And also, it talks about another major river, Gihon. There you go, that on again from ancient Egyptians, and it also speaks about in chapter 2, verse 13 of Ethiopia. And Ethiopia meaning Kush, Kush meaning black. So here we are talking about major rivers Okay, and it speaks of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is where? In Africa. In Africa. So according to this book, the first beings that the gods had created were from Africa. These beings that he created, or created this Garden of Eden, was took place in Africa, somewhere tropical, with minerals and diamonds and rubies, because it speaks in verse 12 about the onyx stone. And those knows that the onyx stone is a black stone. And again, to order to produce an onyx stone, it would take millions of thousands of years to produce. Um, so this whole creation thing, according to this Bible, is saying within 7 days. So we got to question that. Now, here we are going down into that chapter, in chapter 2. Basically pretty much breaks down the how Adam is given the command. You know what I'm saying? Because in verse 16, chapter 2, verse 16, we're still in Genesis. The Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou shalt, may it freely eat. And then in 17, basically saying, you can eat from any of these trees, but don't eat from the tree of good and evil. You see what I'm saying? That's in verse 17. This is basically what God is saying, and he's giving this command to Adam. Okay? Eve is not even in the picture yet. See, that's something that we got to think about. Now here, we go into, that Adam needs a partner, pretty much, which is Eve. Now, according to this Bible that he's created, from the rib of Adam. You see, and then became a woman, you know. In verse 23, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of a man. That just don't make any sense. And when you're breaking down the science of a woman, a woman has like 1,700 genes. A man only has 78 genes. A woman has, when you trace back your ancestry, you don't trace your ancestry through a man. You trace an ancestry through a woman, through mitochondrial DNA. Okay? So it's a lot of, it just doesn't make sense. When you think about the chromosomes, a woman has an XX chromosome. A man has an XY chromosome. And it looks like a Y because it's a missing leg missing. If you had an X, and if you take one of these legs away, it will make it look like a Y. So this means that a man is missing something. Okay? A woman lives longer than a man. A woman's brain is heavier than a man. You see, things like this just doesn't add up when you really study the science of the woman. She gives birth to life. You see what I'm saying? The reason why we call it Mother Nature, Mother Earth, Mother Africa, the Creator. You see what I'm saying? You could get a man and a woman from a woman, but you can't get a man and a woman from a man. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work like that. So that is another point that we have to question. Question everything. But let's keep it moving on. So basically, as you're going down, she's helping Adam name the animals, the plants, and taking care of things. Basically, they have a job. They created to have a job, to work, and they naked, but they don't know that they naked, but they're naked. So then here it comes. I guess Eve was flowing through the jungles of the Garden of Eden, and she came across a serpent. Now, when you look up the word serpent, it's a reptilian type of water creature, a serpent. So it's a reptile being. Now, this Garden of Eden was a closing area. So basically, if you think about it, it had walls. You know what I'm saying? It had walls. It had to keep Adam and Eve in. Because if it's an area that didn't have walls, then they could just keep going, 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 and be out the Garden of Eden. You see what I'm saying? There'll be no restriction. But therefore, there was someone else in the garden, and someone else who the creators have created, pretty much. And it's the serpent. Now, the serpent, everybody knows the devil. He tricked Eve, but but that's the trickery because he really didn't trick Eve. If you listen and read the scripture, he didn't trick her. He told her what it is. But this is the concept of, you know, that we are taught that the serpent fooled her and tricked her to eat the apple. And I don't even know where they get this theme of the apple because it doesn't say apple. Chapter 2 verse in no chapter 3 verse 3 it says but of the fruit of the tree. It didn't even say apple. So where people was getting this apple from? It says fruit. So people got to read and and really understand what you're reading. So basically in chapter 3 it talks about he meets Eve and says, you know, you can pretty much you he's telling her that, if you eat this, you could eat from these trees. She's saying I could eat from any of these trees, but I can't eat the tree of good and evil, or I would die. And the serpent is just kicking it with her like, nah, that's not really true. You ain't gonna really die. You know what I'm saying? He's saying that if you eat from this tree, it says in chapter 3, verse 4, and the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die, for God both know that in the days that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So basically, he's telling her what it is. It's like he's helping her out, if you think about it. But the serpent gets a bad rap automatically, you know. And then it says, oh, but God gave a command if you go back, like I said before, when you go back, he to chapter 2 verse 16, he didn't give the command to Eve. He gave the command to Adam. He gave the command to Adam. But the woman still gets bashed on. You see what I'm saying? Still gets bashed on because she ate the fruit and all chaos is created. And this is why I can't dig this religion, because it just puts women down. Subconsciously, that's what it does to people. Oh, because Eve ate the fruit, now everything is just totally messed up. So now we degrade women. That's what I can't agree with. It just doesn't resonate with me on that one. So basically, the serpent is saying, you're not going to die, but if you eat from this fruit of the tree of good and evil, you will not die. You become a god, and you will know good from evil. So basically, Adam and Eve is just dumb. They don't know the concept of good and evil. And basically, the creator is what it's saying, that the creator don't want them to know good and evil. So how can you punish your creation, from doing something if they don't have no knowledge of this good and evil? How would they know if the serpent is good and evil if they don't have that in them? So we got to question that. So basically, as you're going down into chapter 3, she ate the fruit, and the fruit was good. It wasn't like it was terrible. It had it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree to be desired to make one wise. She took the fruit, she ate it, and then she gave some to her husband to eat. And then their eyes were both opened. And this is what the serpent said. So how did he lie? He told them the truth. He said, your eyes will be open and you will become God and you will know good from evil. So isn't that what happened? Now a lie would be like, yeah, if you eat this fruit, you're going to become God and this and the third. Then they eat the fruit and then it's like poison and they die. That's being tricked into something. But what the serpent is saying is like, yo, nah, you ain't going to die. You're going to become a God and you're going to know good from evil. So basically, they realized, when you go to chapter 3, verse 7, their eyes were both open and they knew that they were naked. They knew that they were naked. So now we got to question that. So you're trying to say that the God, the Creator, has clothes on, the angels have clothes on, and this serpent walking and talking like a humanoid has clothes on. So then they realize that they're the only ones that don't have clothes on. You got to question that. Like, question these things. Now you got, and it's funny because then in verse 7, chapter 3, verse 7, it says, the same verse, they sewed fig leaves together to make themselves aprons, to cover themselves up. Do you know how small fig leaves are? If you look up fig leaves and see how they look, they're very small. And they sewn. So where they get this needle and thread from? If they sewing things together, who give them the knowledge of sewing? You see what I'm saying? Like, no one question these things. Question everything. That's what I do. I question everything. It's just not making sense to me. So now we're gonna keep moving it on. So now God is coming into the picture, right? God's coming in the picture, and basically he's calling for Adam. Where are you? You know what I'm saying? And first of all, it says they heard the voice of God. This is verse 8. They heard the voice of God walking in the garden. Now God has legs. He's walking. So this is telling you that this being that created Adam and Eve, he's not that much different than us, basically. So he has physical appearance as well because he's walking. He's walking in the garden. It says the word walking in the garden in the cool of the day. Okay? Now, Adam and Eve, they were hiding. So now, in verse 9, it says, the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? Basically, where are you? So aren't you God and you created everything and you know everything? How you don't know where they at? How you don't know where they at? And then in verse 13, he's like, what is that? What is this that thou hast done? What have you done? I thought this was the creator of everything that knows everything, creates universes and all that, but he don't know where they at, and he don't know what they done. That we got to question. I mean, this sounds like a regular individual to me, basically, with some high science. I mean, we could sit here, you think about it now, we have the knowledge of cloning. We can clone things. We clone animals. We damn sure clone people. So now this is the fun part is that, when he cursed Adam and Eve, pretty much. God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, I shall art cursed above all cattle and every beast of the field, upon the thou belly shalt thou go. So basically the serpent has legs too. You know what I'm saying? So he took his legs away and make him crawl on his belly like a snake. And this is where you get the concept of, the snake wise. When you see the pictures of Eve holding the apple and then the snake curled up on a tree. You see what I'm saying? So now, because it's a serpent, like I said, it's a reptilian type being. So now God took his legs away and turned him into a snake. But then you got certain Christian groups that practice with poisonous snakes. I don't know. It's just crazy. It just sounds crazy to me, but it really is true, man. Just look it up. So then in verse 15, he said, I'm gonna put empathy between thy woman and between thou seed of her of it. And then basically saying that I'm gonna put empathy between her seed and your seed. Seed meaning giving birth. Okay? So this reptilian type of being must also reproduce because, this is what it's saying. I'm going to put empathy between your seed, Eve's seed, and your seed. Y'all will always hate each other. You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be an issue. So who are these reptilian beings that they talking about? You know what I'm saying? But according to the Bible, so far, Adam and Eve is the first beings on this planet, humanoid beings. But now the serpent's in there, and this guy has more knowledge than they do. So pretty much this is telling you that he's been around longer than Adam and Eve, so they are not the first. See, this is what people gotta understand. I mean, it says it right there. I mean, it's common sense. Now, the funny thing is, going back, the serpent said, you know, your eyes will be open, and you shall be gods, knowing good and evil. But, the serpent tricked her. But then when you go to chapter 3, verse 22, the Lord God said, behold, man has become one of us. That's why I was saying before about the whole Elohim thing is more than one. Because he's saying God has become one of us. If he would have said God has become like me, meaning individual, singular. But no, he said man has become like us, meaning there was more than one. Question that. It was more than one. Become one of us to know good and evil. So did the serpent fool her? No, because this is what he said. Your eyes will be open. You'll become like God, and you will know good from evil. And now God is saying, damn, they are like us now, and they know from good and evil. So where in these scriptures that these preachers be preaching that how the serpent tricked and fooled Eve? Where? I don't see where he tricked her. He told her the truth. I mean, she made the decision to eat the fruit, but then we got a question. Damn, God wanted man to be dumb? He didn't want them to have the knowledge of good and evil? See, that's shit that we gotta question. Question everything, man. And I'm gonna stop right there because, like I said, I gave you the verses, the chapters. We still in Genesis. Go see it for yourself. Read it over and over, and you will see what I'm saying. It just don't make no sense. It just don't. I'm sorry. Like I said before, I didn't write this. I didn't make this. This is King James Version. Holla at him. Where they get this information from? All right? But I'm out of here. I got some things to do. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And happy Father's Day to the single mothers out there. Because, the mothers could be the mother and father at the same time. And, we got to stop degrading our women, man. We got to lift them up. So on that note, I'm going to say peace and hotep. I'm out. It's Anpu.